let's go to the next part here because I do want to give everybody an update on Tom Alexandrovich's case. Can we go ahead and put this up there, please, on the screen? Media was allowed in the courtroom yesterday where some extraordinary stuff happened. So basically, as I'd said before, yesterday, Alexandrovich had a court appearance, basically to respond about the criminal complaint that was just recently filed against him regarding this case where he effectively got caught in an FBI joint operation with the local police department where they posed as a 15-year-old girl online and which he showed up basically to meet with her with the intent to have sex with her. Basically admitted it. He waived his Miranda rights during questioning, as you can all see in the arrest reports, which I exclusively reported over here. Well, since then, after he fled the country some 20 days ago after being caught up in this sting, he has hired literally the most powerful lawyer in the state of Nevada. And there was a showdown between that lawyer and the judge. So yesterday, his lawyer, David Chesnoff, quote, told the court that on Wednesday, he told his client not to attend the meeting. Quote, he was instructed by me that he did not have to be there. The judge very quickly shuts down David Chesnoff, says that suspects released on bond have to, quote, make every court appearance. I am looking at his bond documents to indicate court appearance that he was ordered to appear was today. So your oral request without anything before the court to waive his appearance today is hereby denied. What eventually came after some back and forth with the judge is that Alexandrovich will be due for a virtual appearance next week in court. Apparently that's the compromise. But remember, all of this is about the showdown between whether he is ever going to return to the United States. Because one of the things that Chesnoff actually said is that the state attorney and him had, quote, come to some sort of an agreement. That's what he alluded to from the reporting here in the story. And the judge was like, I don't care what kind of agreement you have going on with the state. I'm the judge overseeing this case. This guy has got to appear in my courtroom. So that's the only update that we have so far. But already we're seeing the signs of like some sort, basically a corrupt bargain, okay? Most powerful lawyer in the state of Nevada, who donated to the state's attorney. This is a verifiable fact. You can go and look. It was actually a scandal in Vegas back in 2021. They called it pay to play justice, where they had somebody like this, the high-powered lawyer, who, by the way, went and, quote, volunteered at a hospital in Israel after October 7th, got an award for being a friend to the Jewish people, you know, by his own account in the Las Vegas Review-Journal, which is owned by Miriam Adelson, the most powerful pro-Israel donor in the United States, who's written pro-Israel puff pieces about this lawyer. So let's start with that. He's hired by this guy, Tom Alexandrovich. You know, by the way, I'd love to know who's paying his bills. And I have sent those questions over to the Chesnoff's office, and they have not returned any of my calls or my request for comment, just so people understand. But in the courtroom, it's clear that the judge wants Alexandrovich to appear. He has now agreed to appear virtually. But the question around this is about the conditions of release. Because previously the COPE from the pro-Alexandrovich side was he was bailed out, which you're allowed to after 2020 bail reform laws in Nevada, without ever appearing before a judge. That's why there was the open question, why was he allowed to leave? It's like, because you can just post bail and get out of there. Well, what's now clear is with the filing of the criminal complaint and now of having to appear before the judge, this is when the type of restrictions that could typically be imposed on an individual for potentially leaving the country, that is when. But the complicating factor is he's not here in the United States of America, he's in Israel. And so it very much opens the question as to whether the state's attorney and the lawyer have reached some sort of agreement and plea, which will very likely, in my opinion, lead to probation. The reason why I'm saying that is that an interview that the state attorney actually gave to the Las Vegas Review-Journal, he floated that, yes, well, technically it's punishable by 1 to 10 years in prison. Probation is also an option. And he said something like, well, I don't really know anything about extradition. I presume that we have extradition treaties. So I dug into that. The extradition treaty that we have with Israel is one of the most insane things I've ever seen. Prior to 1999, they just did not extradite anybody. What happened is that a 17-year-old murdered another kid, actually nearby from here in Maryland. His father was Israeli. They flew to Israel. They fled to Israel. This guy butchered this other person, the Israelis, because they wouldn't extradite him, came up with some novel solution after crazy diplomatic pressure from the Clinton administration, where they would try him for the crime and he would serve out his sentence there. But after that, they were like, look, this is done. We have to have something done and dusted. In the interim period, there's been a number of cases where high-profile pedophiles here in the United States flee to Israel, and because they're Jewish, they can claim the right of return and Israeli citizenship, and they can fight extradition in Israeli court. Krystal, the most recent example I found of a prolific pedophile charged here in America was it took 11 years to go through the Israeli justice system before he was returned to the United States to face trial. 11 years. Even that sham extradition treaty that we have with Israel basically gives defendants in Israel the right to drag this out in Israeli court for as long as humanly possible. And that's in the case of somebody who was an American citizen. In this case, we have somebody who is an Israeli government official. So it is a major question where without massive diplomatic pressure from the United States, I don't think we will ever see this guy again on U.S. territory. That's my own personal speculation, but all of the facts currently indicate that with the sham extradition treaty that we have with Israel, it's effectively not one. It might as well not exist, because 11 years of dragging through justice, especially in a case like this, 1 to 10, what's the prosecutor going to say? Is it really worth the millions of dollars, to try and fight all this case, or should we just give him a slap on the wrist and probation? That's most likely, effectively what's going to happen. And what everyone needs to pay attention to is let's compare his sentence or his eventual outcome to what happens to the 7 other individuals who were all caught up in this. One of them was a pastor, by the way, just so we're aware.
Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
I mean, there's not even words for that. But the point just broadly about the justice is that all of those people had criminal complaints filed against them almost immediately after the case was made public. Alexandrovich's criminal complaint was not fired up until a couple of days ago, almost a week-long delay. There's still a major, I haven't gotten my hands on that yet. It's still inside of the court. If anybody has access to it, please send it to me. But my point just broadly is that the special treatment that this guy has gotten already is crazy. Fled to Israel. Now his lawyer is saying, well, I told him he didn't have to show up. I've got some deal with the state's attorney. So everything here stinks. It stinks to high heaven. And, all of the fact that he's gone, it almost ties the hands of our justice system at this point.
Yeah. Well, and it's crazy too, because in those, interview notes that you were able to obtain, he's in there like, I got to catch my flight on Friday.
I gotta go.
It's not like he hit it. He's like, I've got a flight. I'm going to get out of here in just a few days. And still he's allowed to leave. I think last note on this, and then I know, Saagar, you've got to run, so we'll let you go. We have another piece on Epstein that we'll kick to the Friday show that's also very interesting. They released a bunch of emails between him and a former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak. So you definitely want to be there Friday to take a listen to that. But just as a reminder to everyone, when this all unfolded, Netanyahu and his government just utterly and completely lied, like provably lied about it. Now they were like, oh, there was some issue, and then he returned. They did not admit that he was arrested. They certainly didn't admit that this was in the context of an FBI sting to catch pedophiles who were pursuing, what they thought to be young girls for sex online. So just one more indication of how they will lie about absolutely anything, even when they know that the information is going to come out and going to be made public. So to me, that's also just an extraordinary piece of this. And this guy's position in Israel, he's in charge of like cybersecurity kind of stuff. And he's out there surfing the internet allegedly for young girls to exploit.
He created their cyber Iron Dome. He is the head of the cyber division. I mean, he remember in the notes I released, he was like, hey, by the way, I'm meeting with the NSA tomorrow. He's like, I was like, oh, okay. Got it. I'm here for a black hat hacking conference.
The information that he likely has access to on...
God. Can you even imagine?
The number of people, probably you at this point, Saagar. Sure, I mean, that's part of what makes this story. I think that's the other reason why mainstream media has no interest in touching this one.
Hey, Tom, bring it on, brother. All right. Yeah. Okay.
Don't say that.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know. I mean, at a certain point, it's like people need to stand up and to speak out. It's the worst type of crime that you can commit, in my opinion. And I mean, the fact that he's currently He's on the glide path to a slap on the wrist, and everybody in Nevada just wants this case to go away. Props to the judge, at the very least, for saying, no, that's not how this works over here. So, you know, who knows? She has to get reelected. Wouldn't want to be her, because I'm sure some anonymous donation is going to come in for some election that like 600 people vote in, and miraculously, you know, a nice big check will hit for the opponent. But that's the way that our system works. All right, we got Jeffrey Stack standing by. Let's get to it. Thanks, guys. I'm sorry that things are a bit disjointed today. Just as I said, a personal matter came up. I got to head out a little bit early. But thank you, Krystal, as well, for holding down the fort.
Yeah, of course. And guys, we are going to take Labor Day off, so we'll be back. Saagar and I will be back on Tuesday. And with that, we'll get to Jeffrey Sachs.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.